Hello, everyone, and welcome on Coach QC's podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Dr. Ankur Verma from New Delhi, India. Dr. Verma, thanks a lot for accepting my invitation and welcome on the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much, Clement, man, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. Looking forward to
Well,
it.
me too. I'm very excited to speak with you as you have been one of these leading medical doctors spreading the carnivore nutrition and lifestyle on the social media platforms. And beside being an emergency medical doctor, you have your own podcast called DEesi EM Project, which is focused on creating awareness around root causes of chronic non-communicable diseases. And if I'm not mistaken, your podcast has been heard in more than 70 countries and you have interviewed more than 100 people?
I think more than 50 for sure.
50? Okay.
I actually don't remember how many I've interviewed. When I look
Okay.
back, okay, who all have I interviewed? I just remember like 5 or 10 names, and then it's very
Okay.
difficult to recollect everybody. But yeah, I mean, it's been heard in about 75 countries. I've been doing it for like the past 3 years now.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's growing.
So, my first question to you is as an emergency medical doctor, what led you to become a carnivore nutrition and lifestyle promoter?
Yeah, a few people have asked me that question. So, I mean, if I start from the beginning, I was always a meat eater. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think I was a sort of, I mean, everybody's born a carnivore, right? But I had my instincts strong in me, as per what my family tells me. When I was 2 years old, I would go around clucking in the kitchen, asking for chicken, and just doing something like this. That I wanted to have some fish and stuff. And then as I started growing up, I remember when we used to go for parties to my grandparents' place and all, there would be one meat dish made specially for me, and the rest would be for the rest of the party.
Okay.
So probably one full chicken or one full mutton for me, and one full mutton for the rest of the people. So people knew my love for meats that time. But then obviously, as we grew up, everything happened, right? I mean, we used to eat a lot of carbs. Also, processed foods happened, junk food happened. All the sodas and pizzas and everything. And I used to work out. But then my trainers used to tell me, I mean, since you work out, just eat, get your calories in. And so I used to eat whatever I wanted to eat, just thinking because I probably would be burning everything in the gym. I didn't know. I'd only heard of the fact that you can't out exercise a bad diet, but yeah, not everybody actually thinks it's going to happen with them. But yeah, I mean, so I did my emergency medicine and everything, and I was working, we were saving lives, and not save some lives also, not able to save some lives, and then COVID and all happened. And then in about 2021, I was just doing my routine tests, and I saw my triglycerides had hit 600, and that was a shocker for me. I was like, "You, whoa, this is not right." I didn't look at the other cholesterol levels or the LDL and all, but I mean, I did consult one of my favorite cardiologists in my hospital, and of course, I mean, we decided that I need to cut off all my sugars, especially the processed ones. But then I actually went off and cut off almost all carbs except a little bit of rice. And then I came across Dr. Robert Lustig's book called Metabolical, right? He's a pediatric neuroendocrinologist. And I went sort of keto. And surprisingly, I didn't have any carbohydrate withdrawals. Uh,
Okay.
but and then I realized my triglyceride to HDL ratio was actually 16, yeah, which should be less than 2. It was 8
Wow.
times that, yeah, 16. So I was like a ticking time bomb. And I did
So
not know about.
just to say something for people who might not be aware of this ratio, which is very important to,
Yeah.
it's more accurate than any LDL level. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. I mean, and unfortunately, none of the reports would have that, and even the cardiologists may not know that, or they won't tell you. Because and it's not their fault. I mean, we've not been trained to look at
Mhm.
triglycerides to HDL ratio. I mean, there have been a lot of papers now which have come out, right, regarding metabolic syndrome, and one of the
Yeah.
definitions is hypertriglycerides and low HDL, and yet, it's not put into practice by anybody, by any of the doctors. Even I didn't know that at that time, right? I just knew that my triglycerides had hit 600. But when I read the book, I learned more about metabolic syndromes and metabolic health. And, it just took me down the rabbit hole. And so I cut off a lot of my carbs. I was put on statins for a bit, 5 or 6 months. My blood pressure that time I hit about 160 by 100. So I was put on some antihypertensives. But then once I got into my research, I was like, I don't want to be on medications all my life. So I just shut them off myself. And then 2 years back, Paul Saladino happened and Sean Baker happened. Saladino when he was still Carnivore. So somebody had sent me his reel, and I was like, it makes sense. I've always loved my meats, so I mean, whatever little rice I was having, I cut that off also. And I went full carnivore 2 years back in April. And what I actually realized was, it was not just me. I realized every patient of mine that's coming in is metabolically unwell. They're all coming in with acute symptoms and acute complications of the
Hmm.
chronic disorders that they're all suffering from, right? So they've got diabetes and hypertension, hypothyroidism, cancers, Alzheimer's, PCOS, asthma, other autoimmune disorders. They're all suffering for a very long time. They're all on medication, and they come in with complications that we deal with as emergency physicians. They might come in with a stroke, they might come in with a heart attack, or hypoglycemia when the sugars go down, or diabetic ketoacidosis when the sugars are really high. All of these, pancreatitis, infections and pneumonias. A lot of cancer patients come in with complications of the cancers or the chemo that they might be on. So and so I realized that we're not doing much as doctors. We're not curing anybody. I might be saving their lives in that moment of time, but they're all discharged on medications, and they're told the same food lies, if I may say so, regarding what they should be eating, right? So I mean, uh, they're all told to eat their fruits and vegetables, and cereals and grains, and stay away from eggs and red meat and stuff. And I don't know if a lot of doctors and nutritionists actually, uh, you know, if they figured this out. Most of India is actually eating that. They're already eating that, and they're already avoiding red meats and eggs. Right, our per capita consumption of red meat is really really low. It's like about 4 kgs per person per year, and life expectancy is also very low. So I mean, they're already eating like that, and they're still coming in with these acute complications and acute disorders, and then you're discharging them on the same thing. So I mean, if they have a heart attack again because the root cause was not addressed, my team may not be there to save them the second time around, right? So what are we actually doing? Nothing. Yeah, I won't say nothing. That's a little harsh, but yeah, as an emergency
So,
physician, we.
would you say that the medical system, the way it's designed, doesn't fully promote health?
Yeah, I mean, you can say so in the sense, I realized that we learned medicine to give medicine. We've studied medicine
Mm.
to give medicine, and medicines become our food. Medicines become food and nutrition for all the patients. And it's so deeply rooted into their psyches now. They'd rather have medications than change their diets. I see a lot of patients who are like pure vegetarians, and standard Indian vegetarian diet is fully carbohydrate loaded no matter where you go. And they would be like, I'd rather have my medications than eat meats, or I'd rather have medications than quit my sugars and carbohydrates. And
Mm.
I mean, long time back, Hippocrates actually said that, let food be your medicine and not medicine be your food.
Mhm.
It's actually come around. Yeah.
But you mentioned Paul Saladino, and you said when he used to be full carnivore, now he's not. Obviously, he's doing
Animal
what he
based. Yeah.
thought he's good. Uh, where would you draw the line between keto and carnivore, and why do you think carnivore was best for you?
So I still had some symptoms when I was doing sort of keto. Uh, I was still inflamed. I still used to have a little bit of GERD symptoms and acidity and stuff. I
Mm.
had esophagitis at that time. But when I went full carnivore, and it's been 2 years. I mean, this is the first winters I've not had any sniffles or flu. I used to have it every winters.
Mm.
Touch wood. This time, nothing. I've realized that not feeling as cold as the rest of my peers and friends are feeling. My energy levels are really high. I've become much more leaner than what I was while doing keto. Even though I lost 21 kilos when I was doing keto, right?
Okay.
After that, I've lost another 2 or 3 kilos, and it's not about the weight, right? I mean, my body's reshaping, right? Uh, I've lost quite a bit of fat, uh, and a lot. I mean, I've noticed that I've had better bladder control. That was something that my wife and I, just came across. We were like, we were at a party, like, you know, uh, I don't need to rush to the washroom anymore. It was just like a light bulb moment. That used to happen earlier. My muscle soreness post workout has completely disappeared. I don't have any of those aches or pains that everybody actually talks about. That doesn't happen anymore. Uh, no GERD symptoms, no acidities. I don't remember the last time I had any PPIs. That had become like a norm because I thought, okay, fine, we're growing up. We're going to have acidity issues. And after every dinner, I used to pop in an antacid. I don't remember the last time I've done that. I haven't. I don't remember the last time I had hiccups. The other day, yeah, again, my wife and I were discussing, and we're like, I don't remember when we hiccuped last. And before that, even during keto, we do used to have a little bit of hiccups because we were still doing a little bit of veggies, a little bit of rice, so that was still happening, right? So yeah, I mean, and I've done my research. I've read a lot of books again, and I've went through my biochemistry textbooks again, read up all on the nutrients and the bioavailability and the biodigestibility and a lot of things. I mean, it's not that I'm following anybody blindly. Even if Anthony Chaffee says something, I actually go back and read up and look for my own evidences. I am a published author. I've published about 40 papers in peer-reviewed journals, including randomized studies and case series and case reports and stuff, prospective observational studies. So I know how to read through research. I can make my own inferences. It's not that I follow blindly anyone. So after doing my due diligence is when I decided, yeah, I mean, this is what I need to do. And it's just not scientific papers. Obviously, it all goes back to your history, anthropology, and everything else, agriculture and the revolutions and everything. Yeah.
So that's my next question, actually, because in the West, I've noticed that when people disagree with the concept of optimal health through a carnivore or eating a 100% animal-based diet, they often tend to take Indians as an example of what they perceive as a healthy population being mostly plant-based. So now here's a doctor from India, Indian himself. So what
We are not a healthy population, for sure. That's not true. The world's the capital of diabetes is India. 17% of the world's diabetics are Indians. Uh, 70% of Indians are overweight or obese, and 1 in 3 have metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome. A lot of people actually misrepresent what I said. They like 30% is not diabetic. I said 1 in 3 have metabolic syndrome. There's a definition for metabolic syndrome, right?
Mhm.
And yet, I mean, a lot of people actually like to quote Lancet, which says that 11% of the Indian population is diabetic. I'll tell you through the research that I'm doing right now. We've collected about 6,000 patients. Out of 6,000 patients, 50.7% are diabetic, right?
Wow.
And if I look at the total footfall that have come in, out of that, if I take 6,000 patients and the 50.7% who are diabetic out of the 6,000, a total of 28% of my total footfall are diabetic. And these are the ones who are diagnosed coming in with documented
Yeah.
diabetes. 28%. Look at Lancet's 11%. So 28% is that. Then there are others who refused to enter my study.
Mhm.
Then there are those who were unfortunately declared brought dead on arrival, who had diabetes, we did not include into the study. Then there'll be those who have not been diagnosed with diabetes but are diabetic, and then the pre-diabetes ones. We're getting a lot of young adults with hypoglycemias, and we're working them up. So you can easily see that this number is going to cross 30%.
So
That's one
where
third
do
of
you
the
think
population.
that perception in the West comes from?
I have no idea where it actually comes from. I mean, I don't know. They might be following some yoga gurus, or I don't know, some vegan gurus. I have no idea how they think that it's a healthy population. I have no idea why they should actually think that ways. I mean, our life expectancy is 67%. And if you look at Hong Kong, everybody talks about Hong Kong. I mean, their life expectancy is the highest, right? 87 or 88 years, and their per capita meat consumption is about 220 kilos per person,
S-
and ours is just 4 kilos. So obviously, avoiding meat is not doing us any good.
what? Sorry.
Ours is 4 kilos per person.
Oh
Hong
yeah,
Kong is 220 kilos, right?
yeah.
So avoiding meat is
Mhm.
not doing us any good.
Yeah.
So I don't know where people have this perception that we're a very healthy country. We're not. Unfortunately, we're not. And it's not
But
that it's just India; it's the whole of South Asia, and I think it's across the globe. Diseases are exploding.
you talked about history, anthropology. Since when Indians have been vegetarians or seen
Again,
as vegetarians? I don't know.
yeah. So I don't know where the cutoff is. I've read some papers. I mean, even during the Aryan civilization, the Harappa civilization, when they dug up all the utensils, they were all lined with fats. Uh, right. So obviously, we were a meat-eating population, and we're descendants of the Harappan civilization, the Indians. And again, even the first Ayurvedic book written by Indian physicians, Charaka and Sushruta, right? There was the first Ayurvedic book or the first internal medicine book. They've mentioned 150 types of meats, including peacocks, that should be eaten by humans to stay
Okay.
fit, to get fit, and to remain fit. You know, yes, they've mentioned some herbs and stuff also. But if people say that India was always into vegetarianism, that's not right. uh, they have also documented diabetes. This is 600 BC. They've also documented diabetes at that time, like sweet urine, and
In
they've
India.
in India, in India at those times. So you can't just blame Westernization for the boom in diabetes in India. They knew people were suffering from diabetes. We were the ones who converted sugarcane into table sugar, the first. And we've always been, I mean, we used to have a lot of rice and wheat and all of that, right? All carbs and fruits. So yeah, all of that was happening. uh, uh, what else? The Rig Veda, this might be a little controversial, so I mean, uh, I haven't read it, I don't understand it, yeah, but B.R. Ambedkar, who's the father of India, he's written the Constitution of India, and he was a great historian, right? And somebody who's written the Constitution of India would would be a good historian, I think. I would like to believe what he says. So in his books, he's actually written that the Rig Veda actually said that, yeah, the cow is sacred, and your guests are very sacred. So you should feed the sacred meat to your sacred guests. Uh, and even the Brahmins used to eat a lot of beef. Uh,
Really?
the Brahmins used to eat beef until they
Okay.
realized that the
Be-
untouchables were also eating beef. And in India,
ah,
the caste system was really strong. So once they realized that the untouchables were also eating beef, the Brahmins said, "Okay, we're not going to eat it. It's a sin because they're eating it." And
be-
since then, they stopped eating beef.
that's interesting because I interviewed a yoga teacher here in Geneva, and she has a friend who's Indian, and she said that friend that she is from a Brahmin family, so that's why she is vegan. But she mentioned that the warrior caste, the Kshatriya, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Would be required to eat meat. So, uh, how do you read this nutritional prescription between one group who would be fully involved into, let's say, spirituality, spending a lot of time meditating, praying, uh, focusing on the mind more than the body, and another group who would be involved into fighting and protecting others, where the strength and the physical health would be very important.
Yeah, I think, see, physical and mental health, both of them go together. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, if you look at somebody who's meditating only, and the body of somebody who's meditating and somebody who's a warrior, there'll be a lot of difference, right? Because meats, probably no meats. And I won't say all the Brahmins are vegans. I mean, a lot of them have dairy products also. So yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, somewhere down the line, somebody changed the whole scenario uh, of nutrition in India, and especially during the cust. Like I said, like the beef, I told you, the untouchables were eating it, so it was said that it's a sin, and that could have been for the other meats also. When did
Mhm.
that happen? I'm still looking into it. I'm still digging into it. I still haven't found it. When did that change happen? Over what period? But I am working on that. But yeah, obviously, mental health is also important, and I would suggest people, if you're getting enough saturated fats and vitamin B12 for your brain and your mind, even if you're a warrior, you would still have good mental health, and just having a good mental health through meditation. I'm not saying that it's not the right thing to do. Yeah, you should meditate, or any form of exercise is good, and if it calms you down, no problem at all with that. But nutrition is definitely important.
So, since you've been vocal about the carnivore nutrition and lifestyle, did you encounter any issues within your professional hierarchy, or do you get any positive, negative comments about your peers?
Not yet. So people have seen changes in me,
Ah, okay.
and at least my team, when they're doing the research, they're collecting the data, right? And they're seeing what vegetarianism is doing to everybody. It's
Mm,
very obvious, it's like I tell people that, I've seen the matrix. You need to see it too. Every patient that's coming in is a vegetarian or plant-based. Every one of them. Now I can't compare them to a carnivore yet, or carnivores. I can compare them to me, but I can't compare them to a group of carnivores because it's really difficult.
yeah,
But there's a very strong association happening, right? So my team is absolutely on board, and I did MRIs after I spoke to Sean MRI. I did my own MRI abdomen. I did MRIs of some of my residents, and we compared the visceral fats, and they were shocked. There were vegetarians who had huge amounts of visceral fat. So they're seeing that. The head of my department also went carnivore after my suggestion, and he lost a lot of weight. He went off his antihypertensives. He was pre-diabetic, and that went off. All of that happened. And then I have just basically started to question any of the other specialities. I mean, a cardiologist coming in, and I tell them, okay, fine, this guy is like 26 years old. Why did he have a heart attack? His cholesterol levels are absolutely okay. You're going to start him on statins because the guidelines tell you so. But why would he have had a heart attack? He's not a smoker, also. And they're like, I just don't know.
mm,
So then you check I check the B12 levels and homocysteine, and the B12s are, absolutely tanked, and the homocysteines are up there. I'm like, could that be a reason, right? I mean, high homocysteine levels is a cardiovascular risk factor,
yeah.
right? And so yeah, people have to think about it then, right? I've had so many young patients come in with strokes. I've one day I just randomly checked out 10 different young adults who had come to the hospital who had got their B12s done, and these were age groups of 20 to 45, and they had double digit vitamin B12s, and in the hundreds, like 110, 120. That's it. That's the state. So I mean, there's no backlash yet. I don't think there should be, because if I'm having an educated conversation, people need to understand. I'm telling them, and I'm just questioning what we're also doing. So I've had a few neurologists actually come up and acknowledge the fact that we don't want to give high dose statins, but then if we don't, and somebody instigates the patient outside, that the guidelines say that this guy has to start it, and he hasn't done this to you, he's creating a danger for you, he can get sued,
Yeah.
right? So that happens. And then just basic health practices like sugars banned in my department. The barista knows that he cannot get any sugar sachets with the coffees ordered from my department, be it me, any of my doctors, nurses, patients, their attendants, anybody who orders a coffee from them. This guy can't get sugars into my department, and if they have an issue with that, they have to then go through me, and then I give them a lecture, whoever it is, especially the patients. So that's something that I look forward to, because then I start off that conversation.
Mhm.
So that's there. The food and beverage from my hospital cannot get in packed juices, and again cannot provide sugars with the tea or coffee that the patient or the attendants want. So yeah, I mean, doing all of that, I can't change the whole diet plan from the hospital side, but yeah, I mean, these small changes hopefully do are taken into consideration. But yeah,
How long have
no
you been
negativity.
practicing?
Sorry.
Excuse me. How long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for about 18 or 19 years now.
So let's say 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, did you see the average age of heart attack or stroke going down over those two
Yeah,
decades?
it has. Absolutely. For sure. But it's not that I've never seen young ones previously.
Hmm.
It's just that I'm more focused now, so I'm probably registering them more, right? And there's so much of media now, so anything that happens anywhere, there's a whole cycle to it, basically. So probably it's registering more now. I mean, we've published cases of 17 years old who've had heart attacks, and that was like 6 years back. So we've had cases like that. It's just that now I'm documenting it. When I look
Hmm.
at my retrospective data of the heart attacks and strokes that have come in also, We've had the young ones coming in before also.
Okay. Because I heard Philip Ovadia, Dr.
Yes.
Ovadia, the heart surgeon, he was saying that he saw like more and more people in his surgery table, younger and younger
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the years. But because of people like you and many other doctors now being more and more vocal about these animal-based or proper human nutrition, as Dr. Canberry would say, uh, I guess there are more people willing to try it to get better, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the pitfalls that you have commonly seen with patients, and what would be the important recommendations that you would give to anyone who would like to start?
So I think there are only two issues that usually happen. One is the keto flu,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you become a little more insulin sensitive, the insulin does not tell the kidney or does not signal the kidney to hold back on the sodium, and you lose sodium, and you might have some headaches, and palpitations. And the second is oxalate dumping,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how much oxalates we've had. So us being a vegetarian population, a plant-based population, we've eaten a lot of oxalates. I mean, I know for myself, as a proper omnivore, and I'm not, see, most of the omnivores that we're getting into my study eat meats like once a month or maybe once a week. I used to
Okay.
eat meats every day. At least
Okay.
one meal would be proper meats
Meat.
with some carbs and everything, every day. And yet I've had my fair share of potatoes and spinach and beetroots and almonds and chocolates, all high oxalate foods, except for soy. I never like that.
Mm.
So, but a lot of high oxalate foods. And I knew that I was dumping oxalates. A lot of people can have oxalate dumping symptoms even 2 or 3 years down the line. So, I usually suggest to go low oxalate along with the carnivore, like have some blueberries, like about 50 grams of blueberries every day. uh, and if your listeners really want to learn more about it, Sally K. Norton's book, Toxic Superfoods, is really
Mm.
amazing. A lot of people will learn a lot of things, and oxalates can be very damaging, and a lot of symptoms in my patients are probably due to oxalates. Also, we get a lot of kidney stones, we get a lot of
Mm.
arthritis, and they're known to cause gouts also, hypothyroidism, breast cancer, all that. Anyways, these two are the major pitfalls, and the third is, you can say, consistency. So for meat lovers, that's not a problem.
Mm.
Those who enjoy the meats, but those who have not tasted meats before, like a lot of vegetarians, I have a few patients who are actually reversing their rheumatoid arthritis. They've been pure vegetarians, right? So that's an autoimmune disorder, probably autoimmunity to plant toxins. But they removed all of that and they need healing now. So I started them off with eggs and just chicken soup. Like clear chicken soup, so they just get the flavor of the chicken because they'd never had it in their lives. And then slowly over the months I put them onto chicken, and then some mutton, along with the eggs and some blueberries, obviously because of oxalate dumping. And in a month, these patients stop having any of the pains or the stiffness and the joint aches, uh, and they're off their medications, methotrexate. So I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I never realized before, like medications like methotrexate and CQ and all, they're actually called disease modifying anti-rheumatic drugs.
Mhm.
They're disease modifying, they're not disease curing, right?
Okay.
And they have major side effects, major side effects. So I mean, these patients, and since I am a registered practitioner, I do have the license to taper them off their medications, so I can do that. And they're doing absolutely fine.
Mhm. And did you encounter patients who said, uh, "I don't like the meat. I don't like the taste of meat. I cannot eat fats or meat," and over the time could eventually come to the point to be able to eat carnivore nutrition?
So it all depends on their experience with meats, right? In India, you can prepare meats in a lot of different way,
Mm.
using different oils, using different spices, and it all depends on what their experience has been. So, I mean, if they've been eating, I mean, if they've tried meat just once or twice from some restaurant which was not a good place to get your meats from, they would have had a bad experience. So I tell them, get it cooked in ghee at home, maybe share a couple of recipes, or some, if they're into cheese, you can start off with some cheesy meats, that kind of a recipe. and get the taste of it, slowly develop that. And we've got a lot of options in India, a lot, with the kebabs and grills, and probably the curries, and eggs are also so versatile. And slowly I make them develop the taste of meat, uh, and give them more options, probably like seafood, or pork, which is quite readily available, especially in the north of India and northeast of India.
Mhm.
We get a lot of pork. So yeah, I mean, try some bacon or sausages, that ways. And then slowly and steadily, they keep understanding, share all the recipes with them, share uh, you know experiences with them. They get into it. Yeah.
Do you have regions in India where you have more meat eaters than others?
Yeah. South
Like
India has a lot of meat eaters. So
South.
South India, yeah. So
Okay.
if you go to South India, that's where you get beef. You
Okay.
get it in Goa, and if you go below like Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, Telangana, well, these are the states where you'll readily get beef. Uh, North of that, you don't get any beef. It's banned. Uh, but we get a lot of pork and lamb. But the thing is that people still don't eat that much.
Mm.
It's not that there's a scarcity of meats. We have a lot of meats. We have a lot of goats roaming around everywhere, pasture raised ones, and we've got a lot of French farms and stuff. And people are raising a lot of animals for consumption, but people just don't consume.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, you touched something before. You said consistency, and I think there's one aspect that I always like um, to ask to my guest. In many cases, one of the very few difficult aspects being a carnivore would be the social aspect of it. So maybe more at the beginning than later, but let's assume that would be an issue. What would be your advice to people on that note?
yeah. That's a really good question, man. So usually, what I tell people first is your health is in your hands. It's the most important thing to do. If you have social issues, I mean, if you have to go somewhere where you won't be served meats, eat and go. It's not a
Mm,
problem. Have your meats, have your eggs, and you can go there. What I've seen in my friend circles is that everybody's actually accepted it. And if somebody's having a dinner or something, they actually have a WhatsApp board who's eating what, and they've included carnivore into that. So vegan, vegetarian, omnivore,
mm,
carnivore, and you vote, and then they'll actually prepare it for us.
okay.
And people actually call us and ask us what kind of meats would we like to eat, and what should it be cooked in. So yeah, people are opening up to it. I mean, there were times earlier when we used to ask the vegetarians coming over, what kind of vegetarian food would you like to eat, and we'll prepare that. And it was given that there'll be some meats made and all of that. uh, Now it's the other way around. People are actually asking us, what would you like to eat and how should we prepare it? Are you okay if we order from outside? If we order from outside, what are your preferences and stuff? So yeah, that's good. I mean, because people can actually see that we're working on our health.
Mm,
We're not just doing it for the sake of it, or for the fun of it. It is our lifestyle now. So I mean, and that should also be respected. In the start, people might make fun of you, and that's okay. That's I think human psychology. When you do something different, the first response is usually ridicule, right? And then when people see that you're actually serious, you're being consistent, you're living the lifestyle you actually want to. It's been almost 2 years for me. Nobody can think that I've been joking around with that. They've seen changes in us, in myself and my wife. So they know we're actually seriously doing this. And it's not just us. A lot of my peers have actually gone carnivore, and they've reversed the diabetes and
mm.
hypothyroidism and non-alcoholic liver disease and all of that. And so word spreads. So for the listeners, I mean, be patient. When you get enough saturated fats and vitamin B12, you will actually learn to become patient. It'll just happen actually automatically.
And I
So
think you use the word which is very important, but it's a lifestyle choice and a
mm,
health choice before a diet or before a losing weight option.
yeah.
And that has
Absolutely.
to be very understood, because I think if you go into this lifestyle thinking only on the diet and losing weight, it might be difficult to sustain on the long term.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
And you also love to work out, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So, as I've heard many, usually personal trainers or, yeah, criticizing this low or no carb approach as something that would be detrimental regarding the physical or athletic performances. Uh, what would you respond to that? Do you think we can have a carnivore lifestyle and still be uh,
yeah,
athletic?
yeah.
Athletic?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I've been doing it for 2 years. I've only seen myself progress. I've only seen myself getting leaner. And there's so many others, man. You look at Anthony Chaffee, you look at Sean Baker, you look at Jason. These guys are ripped, man, and no carbs at all. And if you look at the research Tim Noakes is doing, he's published quite a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, he was somebody who used to advocate carbohydrates. Now he advocates ketosis, right? Jake Thomas, if you look at Jake Thomas, right, he's done ultra marathons and stuff
Mm-hmm.
in ketosis, doing carnivore, and there are other carnivore athletes who are actually thriving, on carnivore and uh, and doing the workouts or whatever sports they do. And I mean, there are a few studies that have come out. I haven't been through it completely, but they've seen keto adapted or fat adapted athletes actually replenish their glycogen stores
Yeah,
as quickly as
same.
somebody who's on
Mm-hmm.
carbohydrates, right? And that could be because of our high protein intake. A little bit of our protein will get used up for gluconeogenesis, and then and then stored as glycogen and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a problem. Yeah, I mean, if you want to have your carbs, you have your carbs. There are some people who do carb cycling right before their workouts, but for how long can you sustain it in terms of your metabolic health? So yeah, a lot of people won't even realize it when they've fallen sick, right? You have the trophies, the thin outside and the fat inside. Sugars will be converted to fats also by your insulin. But again, it depends on how much of carbs you're taking. A lot of people are doing low carb approach, which is good. Yeah, I mean, like less than 100 grams or less than 50 grams. Uh, but yeah, and then there are those who actually prescribe more than 200 grams or 200 grams of carbohydrates. I just read that recently. I'm going to do a content on that soon.
Okay. Would you recommend a certain limit of protein intake, or what would be your recommendation when it comes to protein?
Uh, See, I don't know if there's an upper limit. I know essential amino acids are build up three-fourths of our body structure, right?
Okay.
This was when I went back to my biochemistry books, and I was shocked to see them. I'm like, oh yeah, this is right. Our bones are 90% of proteins and then 10% minerals, right? But the only
Mhm.
thing that is given to us or given to you guys by doctors like us are calcium tablets, and we don't focus on the proteins. So I think obviously protein is, and we're a protein deficient country for sure, 100%. And a lot of people just talk about proteins as a whole, but they forget that we need essential amino acids.
Yeah.
So I usually try and do like about 1.5 grams per pound of my body weight of protein every day. Uh, there are people, somebody like Sean Baker has about 300 or 400 grams of protein every day. Uh, I was just reading on somebody else, James Brown. He's a nutritionist. He has about 400 to 500 grams of protein. He's been having that since 1996. So I don't think there's anything wrong.
Okay.
You need to see your own body, how you respond to it, and go for it. Obviously, your minimum should definitely be 1 gram per kg of
Hmm.
body weight. For somebody who's absolutely sedentary and does not exercise, and most of the Indians don't even get that. And again, by proteins, I mean essential amino acids.
Okay. Um, right. And what would you think about the supplements? Some people are claiming that you might, replenish your needs with supplements. Do you think that supplements would have the same role, the same effect?
I would suggest supplements to especially the vegetarians who
Hmm.
just do not want to have meats or eggs. Maybe somebody who has eggs, obviously, it'll be very difficult for them to have like almost 20 eggs in a day. But they may supplement with absolutely unflavored whey because they have no other choice.
Mhm.
Actually, they do have a choice, but they don't choose that, right? So yeah, probably they can go ahead and try and use that, but they need to find the cleanest source for it. Yeah.
Does it have the same
The
effects
uptake.
physiologically? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some studies, but I'm not too sure. It'll still be bioavailable. It'll still be better than any of the plant proteins for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, whey is definitely better than the plant proteins because you don't even get the whole amino acid profile from them. So yeah, I mean, we, it will be bioavailable, not as good as uh, the animal proteins for sure.
Mhm. And so just on the level of physical activity, would you recommend to people to move every day, to train in the gym, resistance training, or
Yeah.
more cardiovascular training?
I go for resistance training. That's really important. You want to preserve your muscle mass. You want to build your lean muscle mass, and you're not going to get that from cardiovascular. From doing your cardios. Look at the marathoners
Mm.
versus the sprinters. When they do high intensity, there's a lot of difference. Marathoners have a lot of muscle loss, while these guys have built up mass. Right. And if you look at Sean O'Mara's work, he's done
Mm.
quite a few. He's done quite some amazing work with sprinters,
Yeah.
and one of the ways to reduce your visceral fat is actually sprinting and high resistance training also.
Mhm.
So that's definitely required. I won't go for slow, boring 2 hours of marathons or cardiovascular, but yeah, that is still better than just sitting for
Mhm.
sure. You want to go for a walk, you can go for a walk after your meals, or after a couple of hours of just sitting in one place. That's better than not doing anything at all. Something is better than nothing,
Mm.
for sure.
And how do you see the future in terms of awareness about nutrition and health around the world, not necessarily just in.
I'm happy that people are actually waking up to carnivore. I've had patients contact me from from US, from Australia, from Dubai, from Italy. So obviously the word is spreading, and if you look at the Google trends, everybody's been posting that the Google trends for veganism has actually fallen down, while for carnivore it's like shot up.
Mm.
So, and it's not just because people are curious, people are seeing what it's doing to their own peers and colleagues and friends and family.
Yeah.
There's so many testimonials out there, a lot of podcasts happening like yourself. People are interviewing a lot of people who've reversed a lot of the disorders and getting so much better on carnivore. And I mean, so it's actually spreading. You have Maha happening, but yeah, I mean, make the world healthy again would be also nice.
Yeah.
So I think I see positivity in this. I'm quite hopeful. Uh, Everybody's not going to convert into carnivore for sure, 110%. My aim is also not to convert everybody to carnivore. I know I can't. I'm dealing with the largest population on earth, and my aim is for those who are in the gray area, who are omnivores, who do enjoy meats. Probably get them to more optimum health.
Hmm.
Maybe convince some vegetarians to convert. There are those who have. So I mean, today I had a couple of my residents actually ask me, "How do you deal with vegetarians?" And I'm like, it depends on why they're a vegetarian. If it's religious reasons, they're not going to listen to anything. So
Yeah.
I back off. And then if it's because of family or some tradition, then or maybe some bad experience, I know those I can work on. You know, show them the results of the study that we're doing, and open their eyes, and and they're also working the same hospital, right? So they can see
Yeah.
their own patients, and I tell them, go ask your patient what they eat, and you'll get to know. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that the awareness spreads and people do actually take it up.
And do you think that awareness could impact the food industry in some ways?
I hope it does.
Yeah. It will be
The
enough.
big food, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it should.
If there is more demand, with the
Yeah, even in
market.
India, I think recently there was an article which said that the sales of a lot of the big food companies has actually gone down in India because there's a lot of awareness about reading labels in India right now. There are a few people who are actually doing that, and they're doing a really good job. One of them was actually sued, and he won the lawsuit. And because he just posted on his Instagram that okay, fine, this is what they say on front, and this is what they say at the back, and it's not healthy, and he won that, and then there's been a boom in people actually reading the labels and understanding how much sugar is there. We're all doing that. So yeah, I mean, the foods. I mean, the sales of processed foods apparently has gone down.
Okay. All right. So when your study will be out and finished?
So this one's going to finish in December of this year. So we'll have
December.
quite,
Okay.
yeah, December
And you,
2025. So we'll have about 20,000 patients.
okay.
That's a good data, I think.
Yeah.
And this is not the only one that we're doing. We're actually doing one on non-alcoholic fatty liver. We're going to start off one on sarcopenia.
Okay.
We're going to do one on hypoglycemia in undiagnosed young adults, uh, and a few others. Yeah. So yeah, about six to
Okay.
seven of them. Yeah, which are all regarding nutrition and the chronic disorders that patients are coming in with.
And the sarcopenia one is directed for seniors or the
Yeah,
general population?
for seniors.
Okay.
Yeah, for seniors who coming in with fractures after trivial falls.
Yeah.
So we're going to be asking them their dietary preferences and everything, and checking for sarcopenia and grip strength and all of that. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Verma, it's been a pleasure to share your experience with the listeners. And may I leave you the last word for this
Yeah,
interview?
thank you so much, man, Clement, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I just hope I mean. As a disclaimer, no offense to anybody who's been listening in. All my opinions, and I mean, I've read whatever I've read, and I've shared whatever I could share. And I don't mean to hurt sentiments of any particular religion or sect or community. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all doing as much as we can. I'm seeing the real life data in front of me every day, and I'm just trying to make the world a better place. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. And I will make sure to put all your links in the show notes so people can find your work, your podcast and publications, and your social media, so they can also follow you as you're doing an amazing work spreading this awareness.
Yeah.
So
Thanks
thank you
so much.
very much. Thank you a lot and see you soon. Bye bye.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Cheers, man. Bye.